This episode is sponsored by DroneWorks Ireland, your go-to place when it comes to buying a drone, repairing a drone, and also when you need professionals to carry out any aerial work you may need. Check out their website at www.droneworksireland.ie.
You're welcome along to the Maroon and White pod. The Galway senior hurlers switched their attention to the clash against Limerick this weekend in round seven of the National Hurling League on Saturday evening at 7 o'clock in the TUS Gaelic grounds. Galway and Limerick ultimately battling it out for a place in the league final. If Cork beat Offaly and Kilkenny can turn over Tipperary, it becomes a straight shootout between Galway and Limerick. And the winner of that will obviously play Cork in the Division 1A league final. While if Tipperary defeat Kilkenny, then it gets a bit complicated. It comes into scoring difference between the three games, obviously involving Tipperary, Galway, and Limerick there. And it could come against Galway if it does come down to that. But if they have to win anyways to be in contention, first off, uh, Craig, obviously, Galway making the trip to Limerick, it's important in one sense because I know last year the league was going very well, and then they went to the Gaelic grounds, and there's no point in saying otherwise. 127 to 18 last year, it was a hammering, and it probably did set them back to the momentum they gathered last year early in the league. So it's really important for Galway to be competitive this weekend.
Yeah, it's a big one the weekend, Paul. I suppose for me hauled in as well. It's his last competitive game unless they win, obviously, and get to a final before first round of championship against Kilkenny. And I suppose they've been building nicely. Albeit they didn't win the first two games. Momentum has been going really well, and in particular, there's a great high now. And even there inside in the stadium, the last day in the Kilkenny match, the buzz is good with the supporters, and everyone's getting behind the team again, and crowds are starting to come out. And Neil is very good at doing that. Like he's great at getting that kind of momentum going, and people support him like they did back in his first term at Galway. And I suppose there's no bigger test than Limerick, especially after coming off the back of the performance they gave against Cork and the free flowing, high scoring game that they played. And it'll test where Galway are at. Like obviously, there's a lot of talk within and without outside the county in particular about all these young guns coming through, and in particular Aaron Island and Jason Rabbit and Killian Trayers and a few more of those really young lads. And I suppose this is the test now, like up against, like, albeit they're not the All Ireland champions, but they've been the standard bearers for the last 7 or 8 years in the All Ireland grade. And I suppose they have their own young guns, if you want to call them. Maybe they're a couple of years older than Galway and they're a bit more progressed, but they have their lads now, and they're leading the line and they're flying, and they're the main talisman of the team, really. You have the likes of, we'll get into it, I'm sure, but even Aidan O'Connor, the last I think it was 113 he scored against Cork, and now hitting the freeze, took the freeze off Aaron Gillan. And there's four or five more like that now Limerick, and I suppose they're looking to them to lead the line, opposed to obviously Keane Lynch who said man the match the last day, but they have brought through these four or five lads, so it'll be a great test for Limerick to see where they're at as well. But in particular Galway, considering last year and the way it is, I'm sure Micheál will be going down there and looking to get a big performance. Not too bothered about the result as long as it's nice and competitive and there isn't a big margin or anything like that. I think he'd be very, very happy with his league campaign overall.
Yeah, obviously, Galway are obviously going down to the Gaelic grounds to try and get a result against Limerick this weekend. But if you put the supporters hat on at the minute, is the end of the world if Galway lose this by a few points, don't get to a league final? So I'm only thinking if you take a Galway perspective, uh, this Kilkenny game and the preparation that's going to need to go into that in the first round of the Leinster Championship over the next few weeks is going to be massive. And I don't think it's the end of the world if they're not in a league final.
No, Paul, like, and look at it, it probably suits Galway better not to be in a league final. They're out a week earlier than Limerick. They're out the weekend of the 18th. And then Limerick are obviously, they have a bye in the first round of the Munster Championship, and they have a massive match against Cork in the first round in the weekend of the 26th of April. So it probably suits John Kiley better to have a competitive league final because they have that extra week of a break, and it'll give them opposed to having 5 weeks of a break leading into the first round of the Munster again. But they will be playing Cork twice in a row then again. So look,
Yeah.
it'll be very interesting tonight. I don't know, they're not out yet, but the teams to see what way, in particular Limerick line out, like whether they go full on strength. And it's like that Cork team, the team they put out against Cork was probably, I think it was their best 15 now really at the minute. I don't think Dan Morrissey's getting in ahead of Mike Casey at the minute, and Tom Morrissey's not getting in, so that's probably their best 15. Um, So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many changes are made from that. And look at you'll be able to tell very quickly what way John Kiley's thinking leading into whether he wants to get to the league final or not. But again, that won't stop him from thinking. And like even for me, like it'd be very interesting to see what way he approaches it with the team from Kilkenny, what follows on, and is there many changes there. And I suppose the most pleasing thing for me, and the lads and Noel and Franny and Aidan over the course of the whole league campaign is that they've unearthed so many new players. And like even there the last day, like the last 2 days, Kieran Hanrahan's been back. Obviously Tiernan has been back. So the Loughrea lads, Shane Morgan's on the bench there once. So you have the Loughrea lads coming back into the fold as well, and I suppose that's very pleasing for me as well. Like, and I know we'll touch about it later on, but they've been a breath of fresh air as well. Like in particular, I know Tiernan's been there the last couple of years, but Kieran Hanlon has been a joy to watch it coming back for the last 2 games. Like, and he's so like as a corner forward, you'd hate to be marking him because when he gets the ball, he's so forward thinking. Like he could be in the halfway line of a shot running out with the ball, and it's something that we probably had with Joshua and Ryan and maybe Jack Grealish and a few of the lads, Darren Morrissey down through the years that you could do that, but he just seems to have that extra bit of bite or I don't know what it is, but he's a breath of fresh air at the minute. So look at, I suppose the biggest headache that the lads will have after the league campaign is picking their team. I think there's a lot of positions where there's two or three people going for the one spot, and like what a position to be in. Like considering where last year finished up and where the lads were when they started off the league campaign and where they thought they were, to have got all these new players.
Yeah, we will touch later on maybe what could be a potential Galway team for the championship when it does come around. But Limerick have actually named their team as we speak. So the Limerick team is as follows: Nicky Quaid in goals, a full back line of Sean Finn, Darragh Langan, and Barry Nash. Half back line of Jeremy Burns, William O'Donoghue, and Kyle Hayes. Midfield Adam English and Keane Lynch. Half forward line of Garrett Hegarty, Aidan O'Connor, Cathal O'Neill, and an inside line of Aaron Gillan, Shane O'Brien, and David Reedy. The only change there is that Darragh Langan has replaced Mike Casey in the full back line, and most notable, Dan Morrissey isn't in the 26, Dara O'Donovan isn't in the 26, and Peter Casey isn't in the 26 at the weekend.
Interesting, yeah. Um, so he's going strong, yeah. In all fairness, there obviously the three lads, but there must be niggles there or something like that. But yeah, that is a very strong team again. So it's clear to see that they're going to be going for it. So
Tom Morrissey as
most,
well, sorry, not in the 26 as well.
yeah, okay. But look at, I suppose, Paul, that in terms of strength and depth, I suppose there's probably Bar Cork. I'd say they're up there with the strongest panel in the championship at the minute. So um, they're obviously going all out to win it at the start. So look, it'll be interesting to see what Galway do to, I suppose, to kind of counteract that. And in particular, I suppose if you're looking at the Cork game, what they do to probably maybe stop the likes of Aidan O'Connor running the show like he did in particular the second half. Keane Lynch. You know, there's so many battles there, I suppose, on Mihal's side that and Mihal has kind of swapped and changed an awful lot in his six backs over the course of the league, and like there's probably the likes of Killian Trayers has been tried in a few places. Obviously, full back is kind of where he's settled. Darren the same way. So it'll be interesting to see now what way he lines out and what way he kind of goes to counteract that. Will Pádraig Mannion be picking up Aidan O'Connor as a man marker, or what'll happen there? So I know we'll get into it further, but as a later on the podcast, but that's very interesting that team.
Is this the first year in a while, Craig, where maybe previous we've been on the podcast and we've been, I suppose, talking about the importance of maybe winning Leinster for Galway. But if you think back to that, I was only thinking today, if you think of the previous years, was it more hope that you were, I suppose, putting your expectation there, or maybe Galway winning Leinster? Is it now at the moment that the evidence and performances and green shoots are actually there compared to maybe previous years?
Um, I don't know, Paul. I'd still argue we left behind a few Leinsters over the last, what was it, cleaning of six in a row now, wasn't it? Um, we definitely left a few behind, like the late goal there 2 years ago up in Croke Park. Like it,
Yeah.
so there was a few there that we were well capable of winning. We should have been winning, and it derailed our year. Like that's the long and short of it. And like I think at a minimum every year that Galway go out at the minute, even with this young side, the goal has to be to win Leinster. Like there should be no, you shouldn't be happy to be getting the Leinster final and losing. I think, and in particular with the crop of players that we've had and that we still have, like even the experienced one, like the likes of Pádraig and Cahill and Dahi and Connor and these lads that are still there with experience. And like we've won enough minors that we should have all these lads coming through anyway, like the likes of Aaron and Jason Rabbit and these lads that like as a county we should be expecting that. Like, and Leinster isn't that very strong. Like let's be honest about it. Like Leinster isn't the strongest it's ever been at the minute. To be honest, yeah, I think Dublin are going to be the biggest competitors this year in Leinster, not even Limerick. So or not even Kilkenny, sorry. So like compared to other years gone by, like where Dublin, maybe Wexford have came for a few years and Kilkenny have always been strong. It's probably been one of the weakest spell of Leinster Championship, which has been well noted across the country, where Munster's been so strong. So I don't think it's even up for debate that we go and win a Leinster this year. No more than it should have been up for debate the last couple of years. But I think this year we've the resources, we've found new players, and we have the tools to go and win it. I think.
Yeah,
Um,
it'd be a massive setback if we don't win it this year.
Massive, yeah, massive. Like, and you can say that they're young and all this coming through, but we still have the experience. We have the older lads that we should still go and win it. Like when you go, I'm sure we'll go through the team. Like, some of these lads are like, aside from Cahill and Porrick and Wheelo, who have over 10 years county hurling done it more. The likes of Darren Morrissey and Tom Monaghan and Keenan Fahey and these lads, Ronnie Glennon, they're around now 4 or 5 years, 6 years. Some of them, Tom Mon even for longer than that. Like they have a good few years under their belt. Like so we shouldn't. Even Derek and goals now is a good few years done. Like so, we shouldn't be, accepting.
Tom Monaghan was non-talking in 2017. So
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so
yeah,
like we should like it's all right saying we've young guns coming through, but we've so much experience there as well. Like when you go through the team, probably two-thirds of them will have 5, 6 minimum years playing McGaughy. So like to think that if we can't go and win a Leinster at the minute the way the Leinster is, then that wouldn't be. I don't personally don't think that's acceptable, and it won't be acceptable for the lads as well. Like I'm sure that's the way they're talking. Maybe not to the players, but within the management group, I'm sure they're saying to themselves like we have to go and win this. We have to target this and go and win it like at a minimum, and then see where that takes us from there. Um, Everything after that then is a bonus, I think, with the crop that's there at the minute, the young lads coming through, like because where you might get away with winning Leinster with 8 or 9 experienced lads and really good young lads coming through, getting to an Ireland final, winner Ireland might take another year or two for the likes of the Aran Islands and Aran Islands and Jason Rabbits and Killeen Trayers and these younger lads, even Keen Daniels, Darren Erie, these lads maybe putting on a bit more size and bulk and maybe getting used to the tackles of that standard of an Ireland semi-final or an Ireland final and getting there. But they're on the right trajectory, Paul, and everything has been done, I think, to get them to that level. And like I think even if you look at our opponents on Saturday night, if you look at say Aidan O'Connor, Colin Coughlin, Cathal O'Neill, Adam English, these lads, Shane O'Brien, like it wasn't that long ago that Darragh Donovan was giving his interview on the bench where he was saying, "Oh, this is the Bull O'Brien. Wait, and you see him in a few years." That was like 3 or 4 years ago, and he's only making the breakthrough really now. Like so, them lads have been on that Limerick panel for 4 or 5 years, and physically now they are ready to match it and mix it with anyone. Like so, albeit the lads are flying it, I think the physical side of things will take time. Even though Jason Rabbit is well able to mix it, just to be able to get used to it. Like, and that's probably the most intriguing thing that I'm looking forward to this weekend is to see how the likes of Jason Rabbit or Aaron or whoever maybe in the full forward line deal with the likes of the Sean Finns or the Barry Nashes or I know Mike Casey's out now, but I would have loved to see Mike Casey. Seasoned campaigners that have a massive S&C behind them, probably some of the strongest players that ever graced inter-county hurling, to see what they come up against, what the lads come up against and see how they react it.
at the same time, even if you look back to when Dublin beat Limerick last year in the All Ireland quarter final, and in the past maybe when it hasn't went, well I suppose particularly the last 2 years when it hasn't went Limerick's way, uh, particularly I suppose this game plan of the way Galway are playing at the minute, running Everton and playing this short game and really working it out from the back. This game plan has caused Limerick issues as well in the last 2 years, so there's plenty of reasons to be optimistic heading to the Gaelic grounds too.
Yeah, like I suppose, and the best example of that, Paul, is what you just mentioned there against Dublin last year when they actually ran at them. They didn't have any answers. Now, I'd argue there's a new freshness about this Limerick team this year. Like, albeit the players have been around for a while, it's probably the first time that John Kiley's been starting 4 or 5 of them in the one go nearly every game. There's always been one or two thrown in, like Colin O'Neill hasn't been starting. Adam English is only coming on there for the last 2 years, or maybe last year, but be making a start. Shane O'Brien has been starting every game this year. Aidan O'Connor's been starting every game this year, so they're starting to. So that's brought a new freshness completely to it. And even the likes of dropping Seamus Flanagan, Barry Murphy, these lads who have been around for a while, it's probably brought a new freshness with the younger lads as well. So I think it's kind of more. I wouldn't say like that caught them out against Dublin last year was probably maybe not really expecting what was coming, number one. And I suppose the game plan, yeah, you're right. And Galway have been doing this really well, and that's another point on Saturday night to see how this plays out against the season, like really, really good forwards and a strong midfield partnership to see how it play out. And look at it's tough, like Galway are only playing this game plan really maybe 6 weeks to 2 months properly in competitive matches. It's going to break down. Like it'll probably break down a lot at the weekend, but it's a long term vision and long term plan that I'm sure Michal and the lads that they've rolled out and they said, look at if this breaks down over the league, fair enough. But when we come to championship, that we gain momentum over championship, and by the time it gets to the latter stages of this championship, that we were really, really, tuned in and going through this game plan. But it's actually lovely to see. But the thing I find, Paul, is that we now have the players that can go like and run and do this game plan and carry ball and like the most exciting part ever is that you see a corner back and he's up in the full forward line.
Yeah, and even it's the style of play, like I think back to even the Leinster final last year, where maybe we probably had more questions than answers of maybe, and even previous years of maybe what way Galway are trying to play, but you can actually see what they're trying to do now.
Yeah, like and I suppose a lot of praise has to go for the likes of Franny and Aiden and the training that they're doing because everything is on point. Like every ball to hand, very little ball being spilled now or sloppy play or anything like that. So they've obviously been really, really tuning in the training, like and the drills that they're doing obviously is like compared to Kilkenny the last day now, every ball to hand stuck, every pass was head high, like there was no ball spilling on the ground really as such. Whereas Kilkenny, they were spilling ball, they weren't getting the lift, they weren't getting the ball in their hand. Finding the player with the ball was going out over their heads once or twice. So Galway are really, really tuned in, like, and I suppose they're at a lovely curve now where they just roll into the Limerick game, see how they go, see where they're at. If they win, bonus territory. As long as they're competitive, tune it down a notch, go on their camp there next week, chill out, or do whatever they need to do in the camp. They're back in then for a block of 3 weeks before championship, and you're leading in nicely to the Guinea game. Like it is actually going in a lovely like curve, like and like even for the first 2 games to lose them but still play well. And I think the fixtures went well against them this year as well, like where they could have a crack at the first 2 games. They knew they probably had the two lesser games in coming up and then finish off with a strong one against Limerick.
One big matchup I'd be optimistic is if William O'Donoghue decides to sit back in the number six position. I know you've talked about it in the past that Cahill's one of the hardest players that you've ever marked. If he does that at the weekend, because what he has done this year of sitting back in that number six role, it's really going to create big opportunities. And I know Limerick supporters will probably talk about maybe Adam English and Keane Lynch dropping back, but there is going to be stages if he doesn't push out on them and they're not in a position to get the call where Galway can get real joy from that.
Yeah, look at that. And I like that. Carl will do that. He does that naturally in every game, like where he'll roam into the pockets and he'll go left and right. I don't think Will Donoghue will follow him. I think that they'll probably
Yeah.
just get Adam English to pick him up or something like that. I don't think Keane Lynch is kind of going to stick.
The thing
Wait,
I'd
like
say there, that is usually Darragh Donovan's role around the middle there
yeah,
to come. Like Adam English and Keane Lynch are more attacking, so I just think it's something where Galway could get joy out of there.
yeah. And look, I suppose if Adam or if Will Donoghue leaves, it's going to leave an awful hole there in front of the full back line. So, but like I suppose Galway will probably have the same conundrum their far side because Aidan O'Connor was doing the same thing that Cahill normally does if he goes by the Cork game, where he was coming so deep and he was picking up points left and right. Um, No, I still don't think Aidan O'Connor can strike a ball like Cahill standing. Like I think that's more of a problem for Limerick. But it'll be interesting to see whether they line out like that or not. Like like Will Donoghue really don't. I don't. He hasn't the legs to be able to do that type of a game. Like
Mm.
he's a lovely sitting back, centre back, but to be floating or to be going tracking Cahill all around the field now, I just don't think that's his game. So
Yeah, I'm actually very surprised they went with him at six. Um,
yeah, Joe had got Paul. The biggest surprise really is that they haven't tried something else. Like I suppose Kyle Hayes hasn't been tried in at six, or even Cathal O'Neill played a good bit at six there, so he did for a while 2 years ago, and he hasn't tried him at all there. But like
Particularly
even
because it was the game they played in Pierce Stadium against us a few years ago, and he played wing back, and he was frightening that day. I remember,
yeah,
in the half back line. I'm very surprised he hasn't been even tried there. But the fact they went with O'Donoghue, and I think nearly for all 5 of their games. And he's named at six again. And even with that team, he's going to play at six again at the weekend.
Yeah, like, and I suppose even if they wanted to move Keane Lynch in the forwards and put Will Dunno midfield, that they don't have a kind of a, they haven't tried a backup six. Um, but look at, I suppose, the, at the minute, it is a very strong half back line, and it's something that we're going to have to break down. And again, whoever plays in the wing forwards, whether it's Rory Burke or Tom Mann or whoever it is, that they're going to have to try and stop Jimmy Burns and Kyle Hayes from really making those runs. And Jimmy Burns kind of back to his best in the last day against Cork. He was really dominating. So they just need to break down that half back line. Is going to be a massive part of the game the next day.
If we look at that Limerick inside line, David Reid is obviously going to drift, which you would expect. If he drifts, are you going with Joshua or Kieran to, I suppose, drift with him? You have to think obviously Aaron Gillan is going to be in there. Is it Trayers who goes over on him? And then who's going to pick up Shane O'Brien?
That's the conundrum you have, right? I'd say, Paul, like physically wise, you're not going to get two stronger players really. Um, I think I'd say Trayers is definitely going to have to stay in the full back line, and but see, it depends what the way he lines out now as well. I suppose. You're probably going to go with
I
Pádraig
would,
sat on Cody the
yeah.
last day against Kilkenny, like so. Unless they do a man marking job on Aidan O'Connor or Pádraig, and Pádraig follows him out, and Ronan Glennon stays in the wing, I suppose, and Garrett Hegarty then maybe.
It just has me thinking. I wonder, do you go with Joshua maybe over on Galan because the fact he went on Mossy Keown and he's a physical player as too, and then maybe Trayers over on O'Brien.
Yeah, you're probably going to need the height of Trayers really on O'Brien. Like O'Brien, Shane O'Brien's obviously a bit
Yeah.
taller than Aaron Gillan, but yeah, Joshua, yeah, that'll be an interesting one to see what happens there. It's hard to know with that because like Darren is available there as well. He wouldn't be a bad option. But yeah, Darren, you could put Darren maybe over there, but she depends then with Kieran Hanran who starts. Like so, he's a few options there as well. A few decisions to
Yeah.
make in six backs. So you could
Even
say seven places.
even if David Rady drifts as we talked about, Kieran Hanron's obviously comfortable to drift with him, having sending him back to pitch. That Limerick half forward line, Darren Morrissey, in fairness, he matches up fairly well, height wise with Garrett Hegarty. Um, if Port does play six, he's probably the player to go on Aidan O'Connor, and similar to probably Will O'Donoghue, there's going to have to be times where he's going to have to sit, and there's going to have to be times where he's going to have to follow him. Isn't Ronan Glennon then over on Cathal O'Neill?
Yeah, maybe Ronan Glynn and Colin O'Neill. Maybe Ronan might be a bit more physical for Carl Hegarty as well. And leave Darren and Colin O'Neill. You didn't like it's much of muchness really. I suppose running power, maybe Darren might be better maybe on Cathal O'Neill. Ronan loved the old battle of arguing and messing with Gareth Hegarty for 70 minutes. So I'd say that's the way it might go, and I imagine Pádraig will pick up Aidan O'Connor. Whether Pádraig follows him all the way out, that's another question really. The midfield battle is going to be a massive part of it. Like the last day against Cork when Adam English and Keane Lynch got on top, they just totally took over the game. So Keane Daniels there, and like probably Tiernan is going to have a very busy day now to keep the two of those quiet. And like where Keane has been doing very well and he's been bombing forward and all that, like the next day now will be a big step up from like, and it'll be very interesting to see like, and where he's been doing very well. It'd be great to see him. I'd love to see him shine here now the next day and really stamp his place on the team, like because he's been doing really well going forward. But I suppose the big thing and the most noticeable thing is that when you go forward like that, like with the likes of Keane Lynch, Adam English, they will punish if you don't get back out straight away, and they have the capabilities of just counteracting that or counter-attacking it really quick. So yeah, there's going to have to be loads of communication, loads of talking there, and just stopping that midfield getting on top because they will control the game.
Obviously, Galway ain't going to be specifically man making Kyle Hayes, but when he does go forward, there's going to have to be times that they're really going to have to track him and I suppose not let him create that overlap that then creates space for Limerick in attack. Does Darren Erie track him? And I know maybe physically he's obviously not at Kyle Hayes' level yet, but like he does have that pace.
Yeah. Um, that's an interesting one right now, or Rory Burke. Like I suppose the most noticeable thing against Kilkenny the last day, Paul, was that how deep Darren Eary was coming in open play. He was coming way back in his own half back line, in particular from a Kilkenny puck out. He was way back to field, like so. There will be space there, and he was carrying a lot of ball through, like he wasn't really staying up. So he that's will he be on that wing? It's interesting to see, really. I suppose like it's much of a muchness to get in the more than half back line, half forward line, the far side. Like Jimmy Burns, Kyle Hayes, they're the same physical men. Like so, I don't think that's going to be a case. I think it's just a matter of who's better at tracking back when Kyle Hayes goes forward, because Jimmy Burns isn't going to go as far much forward as Kyle Hayes. So I'd probably match up Rory Burke with Kyle Hayes, and I'd leave Darren Eary and Jimmy Burns. I think if he gets a run in Jimmy Burns, there'd be no catching him really.
Yeah, that's true. Even to send him the other way. Uh, the one thing that I probably think that there probably needs to be a bit of improvement is Galway going after goals. I think there was definitely chances there against Kilkenny where they really had time on the ball and they could have worked that goal chance but went for the point. Uh, and I know obviously terrific to score 35 points and go over the 30-point mark. But there is going to come a stage, even in the championship and later in the summer, where we're going to need goals. I think as far as I'm aware, obviously no goals the last day. 2 goals against Offaly, 2 goals against Waterford, and a goal each then against Tipperary and Cork. So 6 goals so far for Galway in the league.
Yeah, they're going to need more than that, Paul. And I suppose with the element of youth now inside, like it's probably going to be take off the shackles a small bit, and you can even see Aaron growing into it now every game. Like so, he's taking on more shots and taking on more runs that he mightn't have been taking on at the start of the league. So you'd be hoping as the championship bears down that like he has the capabilities and he's the skill levels and he's the speed to get through and the likes of that stuff. And Jason Rabbit, in all fairness, to him, he's been a great target man for the ball inside, and he's been laying off great balls. So and look at Wheelo's getting close to coming back to himself as well. Like so, yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what way they approach that at the weekend, whether they go for goals early or what happens.
We're obviously talking about maybe this team that could be the team, obviously, that played against Kilkenny, and given how they performed, it is hard to see many changes. Just on the inside line, it was interesting against Kilkenny. You had Conor Whelan and Aaron Island inside, and Tom Monaghan coming out into midfield at different stages. What do you think's going to happen here? Because we haven't seen Conor Whelan and Jason Rabbit together, and I think there's probably supporters that would like to see the two of them inside together and see how that works. And does maybe Aaron Island drop out, or how do you see this working at the weekend?
It's hard to know really. Like I suppose was it before the Kilkenny game that Jason Rabbit played
Played the
the
Waterford game.
ATU?
Yeah, yeah, he was
Yeah,
rested. It seemed like he only came on, didn't start because he obviously played the ATU final Wednesday night before that.
yeah, Wednesday night. So maybe that was the reason why he didn't start. Does Mono come out? Does Tom Mon come out and Jason goes in? If that happens, Aaron floats out. That's been
Yeah,
happening. So Aaron Wheelo or Jason Rabbit. Well, to be honest, Jason Rabbit's probably been playing one on one inside. They've been leaving him isolated inside
yeah.
for longer periods, and Aaron has been coming way out the field. I think Aaron's doing really well coming out around the half forward line, picking up ball. Some of his points have really been got from either running through the middle or long distance shots, which he's very accurate from. So albeit he has the capability of being so threatening inside. I think he's probably playing better around the half forward line as a floating corner forward coming out. So if that's the case, you could play Wheelo and Jason Rabbit inside, or even isolate one of them inside and get the other one out around the 45. I think that's probably what will happen the next day. I'm sure Mihal would love to see Jason Rabbit up against the likes of this Limerick full back line to see where he's at the minute, no more than Aaron. So if that's the case, then Mono or maybe Rory Burke, you just wouldn't know, or Darren Eary, one of those three um, could be rested and been brought on maybe later on in the game.
Yeah, because even if you're looking at it, like if Yara Limerick and Jason Rabbit and Conor Whelan are in there together, um, Sean Finn and Barry Nash definitely don't get forward as much as they want to.
Yeah, that's for sure. Like, and in particular Barry Nash, like I think he's only come back from injury as well, so he's not fully there. Like you could see there at the Cork game, he wasn't bombing forward like he normally was. So I don't think Barry Nash. I think Barry Nash will be the man that goes out the field and picks up the forward that goes out. Um, whereas Sean Finn will love that battle right with Wheelo, so he will inside. But that'll be very interesting to see. But I suppose the best thing about Galway at the minute, Paul, is that they have a lot of those players, inside line players, that are actually moving fairly well. Obviously, Colin Malloy was fairly injured, but he was going well before he got injured. Evan has been coming on. Connor Cooney come on the last day. So there is loads of options in all fairness. I know John Fleming is out injured for a while, but he's been going very well in the half forward line before he got injured. So that's the good thing, as we spoke about earlier on, Paul. There is loads of options, different types of options as well. Um, I think that's the nicest thing with the likes of Jason Rabbit. Like, it's not your, we seem to have been bringing through the likes of Aaron, Colin Malloy, Declan McLaughlin, all these nippy, fast corner forwards. But Jason Rabbit is something different. Like his father was years ago, he's a big target man, but can also mix it. And like as we've seen over the course of the league, well able to take a point himself as well, or take a score, and well able to lay off a ball. And it's been something we probably have been lacking in Galway for the last maybe 7 8 years. I think we mentioned here a few times where since Johnny played like that go to target man. And it's been nice to see, like, because I'm not putting down the lads, Colin Malloy or Declan McLaughlin or Aaron or any of them lads that have been inside, but they've all been the one type of player, real fast, nippy corner forward, for Jason Rabbit. And I actually seen Oisin Lohan has been on a few panels there, but hasn't been getting onto the team. Like, he's another type of lad there now. He made a great start. He's Galway campaign last year in the league, but probably got injured at a bad time. And he's another type of player now, big, strong, solid player, and he might see game time over championship.
Yeah, even as you mentioned there, all the bench coming on against Kilkenny and all chipping in with a point. Colin Malloy not used, Declan McLaughlin not on his 26, so it just does show the depth that's developing in the panel as well at the minute.
Yeah, definitely. And look, it's the same in the backs. We're on about seven backs there for six places. And that's not even including, obviously, Fenton's out injured. TJ Brennan come on the last day. Sean Murphy was on the bench, didn't play. Another young gun, only 20 years of age. Keenan, obviously, who's been a stellar, one of the first names on the team sheet for the last 3 or 4 years. Um, yeah, and Cullen Killeen is another guy there that is looking forward to seeing as well. I think he came on there in the Dublin game, was it, or maybe 2 or 3 games
Water,
back.
Waterford,
Waterford game, was it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So he's another guy, like, who's had a great club campaign that, again, like, so like that, Mihal probably be leading him in for the next 2 or 3 years and getting them used to county standards. So like there's a lot of positives, like, I suppose, Paul, and like, where, like, obviously Dahi's out injured as well. There's a nice blend at the minute, like, and I think any of the lads I've been talking to so far that in the last couple of weeks have been all saying the same thing, like, that the buzz is back and the atmosphere is good to training, and the games themselves, the 15-a-side games, are very competitive. And that's what you need, like. And like any successful team down through the years will tell you, like, and it's always been the rumours when I was growing up, the Kilkenny teams of old, they'd often say, like, that their 15-a-side games were better than most championship games, bar an Ireland final or semi-final. And even when we were fairly competitive there, when I was there back in 15 and 17 and 18 in our Ireland finals, our 15-a-side games leading up to them were absolutely cutthroat, like, so, and that's what they want, and that's what they're building to. And I think Miguel is doing a great job there of having a strong 35 or 6 lads where he can turn around and say, let's play a 15-a-side game, and he knows, like, that in any given day the B team could beat the A team at training. So that's what it's all about. And like, we didn't even mention Sean Linan there, Connor Cooney come on the last day. Another, like, there loads of experience there as well, and I'm sure they're helping out the young lads there and making the step up. And in particular, the forwards like to be listening and watching Connor Cooney at training after all the years he's been given to Galway. Like, must be a massive plus, and many more like him.
Yeah, we actually haven't mentioned Gavin Lee, obviously injured there as well at the minute. So he's to come back from injury.
Yeah, Gavin is another serious player, like, that will be, in all fairness, he's vice captain. He's really made his place at home there in the last 2 years in particular. Like, and to be honest, like, I think since he's moved out from six to midfield, he's really found his feet again. Like, and in particular that Cork game there in the second half, he was picking off points there, and unfortunate to get the injury when he did. Like, but again, he's only 22 years of age, I think 21, 22 years of age. So he's a long career ahead of him again. Like, and big, strong, physical man, and he's a prime example there now. I think Henry brought him in at 18 years of age, and he's 4 or 5 years done, and he's kind of like what you'd see now with the Limerick set up there, Paul, where the 4 or 5 years and where you get. And I think that's where Galway fans really like, and this is where you'd love to just slow them down a small bit, like, and even in the game the last day, like it's where it's lovely to see all the roaring and shouting. Like, I think there just has to be a kind of a expectancy as well that these lads are only 19 years of age. Like the two lads in particular, Aaron and Jason Rabbit, and even Killian Trayers, they're 20 years of age. Like, you have to give them time. Like, so if it doesn't work out at the weekend, or for them, or if it doesn't work out in the first round of the championship, they're 1 or 2 years in there. Like, don't. Give them the time, like the likes of Gavin and guys got there now 4 or 5 years, and look at him now, like he's turned into a man, and it's no more than anyone. Like, to really make it, there's very few that make it from a very young age at 18 in a county setup. You need the 2 or 3 years experience. So that's what I think. I think the most exciting thing about this Galway team at the minute, Paul, is that you can nearly see it in a few years to come, that they're going to bring us back into the Art Ireland semi-finals and Art Ireland final zone. Like, and I think, look at, like, Mihal is he's so tuned in, like, and he's been around the block for so long now that he's doing everything right, absolutely everything right, from the timing of what he does between trainings, camps, the players he's brought in, the I suppose the variation and everything. It's just he's top level manager and management. The lads he's with him, like, and even the freshness he has of, say, bringing in the lads like Aiden and a few newer lads and newer faces as well to the backroom team. And I think it's all starting to. It might have took 18 months to get where it is now, or 17 or 18 months, but it's starting to reap the rewards now. Like, and I suppose the experience and the class of the man, and the backroom team he has is starting to show again.
How do you see Saturday going?
Look, I suppose after hearing that team there for Limerick, Paul, I think it's going to be a big step up. Um, I think I see it playing out a lot like the Cork or Tipperary game, but maybe Galway a bit more efficient. I think they were probably very inefficient in the first two games, and probably definitely could have been ahead at half time against Cork. Could have been closer against Tipperary, missed an awful lot. If they can get their scoring rate up and their scoring percentages up, and their efficiency on point, I think they've every chance of being close. Close, but I think it's going to be a massive step up for the lads that haven't been at, I suppose, their first few games, their first year in the year/2 years in the panel. So the likes of Darren Eary, Aaron, Jason Rabbit, Keane Daniels, Killian Trayers, Josh has been around, Kieran Hanrahan, obviously first year really, and so the likes of those 4 or 5 players, where I think they are the future of this county, like, and what they're going to bring us over the next 10 years. I still think that this is the step up that they need to see what they're like. So I'll put it like this, Paul: if we play like we did against Kilkenny and Limerick play like they did against Cork, I think we'll be probably losing about 4 or 5 points. Um, and I'd be happy with that. I'd be happy if we
Yeah.
brought out the same performance against Kilkenny. And I think we spoke about it before air, if we go into the if our league campaign ends on Saturday night and we lose to Limerick after a really good solid performance by 3 or 4 or 5 points, and that's us heading into championship against Kilkenny, I think the management, Mihal and all the lads will be very happy with that, and the league campaign in general, as a whole. So let's hope. I hope that's the way it is. I hope for the young lads' sake, with the great momentum behind them, they're going really well, and I hope that's the way it is. And it'll be a big challenge. It'll be a very big challenge to see where they're at.
If you're picking the Galway 15 for championship um in the morning, what is it?
um, I suppose, look, starting off in goals anyway. Well, I will say one thing. Stephen O'Halloran has been a breath of fresh air in this league
Uh,
campaign. I thought he's been really good. I
it's only
like. I
it was only
suppose.
when I was sorry, it's just off point now, but it was only when I was chatting to someone from Crowell there last week, saying if Dara Gilligan never went to Australia, Stephen O'Halloran wouldn't have got the chance to play in goals.
Yeah, I could tell you so many stories about goalies like that, Paul. If the goalie didn't go somewhere that, but yeah, it's a fair point. Like, and he's dead. Like, sure, Stephen Halloran was playing outfield.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think we played Crowell in a Kilmacud Sevens semi final, and don't know, that was the first time I seen Stephen O'Halloran playing in goals. I always used to remember him playing outfield. It just shows like it's no more than Derek. They have an outfield perspective and everything, but yet they're goalies, and it's such a plus to have. Like in particular, if the runs that are being made from the outfield players or that sort of stuff, or the runs that are being made from the opposition players, that you probably see it a bit quicker than you know Cal or Skell probably give out to me for saying that because they never played outfield. But you know, the likes of those lads would they probably see it a lot better and it's a lot easier because they've witnessed it and they've experienced it. So, look, I'll tell you, Derek is still my number
Yeah.
one. Like I think he's been brilliant, but like in all fairness to Stephen O'Halloran, he's been really good, and of course you've Aina there as well, like who's been a solid. So I think goalkeeping positions at the minute is fairly strong in Galway.
Derek's number one. Who are you picking then in the full back line?
Um, yeah, look, I suppose this is probably the biggest debate really because there's so many people have played in this position over the course of the league campaign. Like Porrick has played back there. Obviously, Darren has played there. Kieran Hanrahan has come in the last two games. Joshua Ryan, who didn't start the first few games, played there. Ronan Glynn has played cornerback. Dahi's played fullback. Um, so yeah, there's probably debate for a few different things. Look at Paul. To be honest, like I think Killing Trayers hasn't put a foot wrong, um, and I think he's been really good. But still, if Dahi Burke is on a panel, Galway panel, I would have him full back just for the whole experience of it all and what he's done. And I think it's been his best position all through his career. Although I probably won't like to hear that because he loves playing centre back, but full back has been his position, I think. Whereas Killian has been brilliant and all that, and I would try and find a place for Killian as we will going on in the team because I think he deserves to be there. I would put Dai full back, without doubt.
Or who are your two corners then?
Um, Two cornerbacks. I'm going to put Darren Morrissey one cornerback, and
Okay, so you're moving Darren from the half back line into full back line.
yeah, yeah. I put Darren cornerback. I think that's his best position. Down through the years. The other cornerback, like if we're going off right now, I'd pick Kieran Hanrahan over Joshua Ryan the way he's played in the last two games. But I'll pick Joshua Ryan over Kieran Hanrahan because I don't think he's had enough exposure just yet. And I wouldn't doubt him for a second. I think he's going to be brilliant at the weekend, and I think he's going to be future cornerback for years. But I just think Josh is a bit more experienced now heading into the first round of the championship. So I pick Joshua over Kieran right now for championship if championship is in the morning.
Half back line then.
Half back line I would have P Mannion at six and leave him sitting there. I put Killian Trayers at wing back, and at the minute as it stands, I'd have Ronnie Glynn in the other wing back. Um, Midfield in, yeah. So like again, very similar to Kieran Hanrahan. Keane Daniels has done very little wrong in the whole league campaign. Again, the big test from at the weekend now to see how he gets up against that top class midfield and see how he goes there. Um, like if he comes out of that with a good performance, there's no way. Like how can you take the jersey off him? He's been really solid. So this weekend will be a real test for Keane. Like and looking so far, nothing has phased him. He's been really good. He's won so many important frees. He's popped up with some great passes. Has made some great runs. So Tiernan Killeen, I will put him straight in there at one midfield. Um, and if you ask me after the game at the weekend and Keane plays well, I'd have Keane midfield. But at the minute, I'd put Tom Monahan up midfield
Come on. Okay.
with Tiernan Killeen, yeah. Obviously, Cahill goes straight in at 11. I really like Rory Burke. Obviously, it's his second year there. I think he's physically really got strong again this year. So much in his locker. So impressed by him the last of the way he fielded his high ball as well. Like and actually experienced that in club level off him a few times. I think he's really good. I'll have Rory on one wing, and I will have uh, if John Fleming is back in time for first round of the championship, I put John straight in the wing. I think he's been very good and very solid. I think he was great for Galway last year. But I doubt he will be. I'd say it'll be very tough to make the first round of the championship. I'd have just leave that to play for a second. I'd have Wheelo and Aaron Nyland inside. And I'd probably put Wheelo full. I put Aaron
Yeah,
Doyle in one corner, and I would put oh, I either Jason Rabbit or Declan McLaughlin if he's fit in the other corner. I my only thing about starting Aaron and Jason, like I said to you, I think they're going to be the future of Galway hurling for the next 12, 13 years. They'll be the main lads that will be pushing everything. It's starting two 19-year-olds in the one line in the first round of the championship. That's my biggest. Like, don't get me wrong. My opinion is nothing got to do with it. But if I just give my opinion here, it's probably a big ask of like the two lads were playing school hurling last year, like to be starting first round of the championship. So yeah, I think like it's probably at the stage now, even though he's only 19 years of age, I'd have Aaron taking the free straight away.
yeah.
He's probably shown that he's probably a bit ahead of Cahill consistency wise in the last two games. In particular, the last game he took every free. I think he only missed one. So yeah, look, I think for that reason alone, like free takers are so important in today's game or any game that I'd have Aaron definitely starting corner. The other corner, yeah, it's up for debate really. Like, yeah, I'd either have Jason Rabbit or if Declan McLaughlin gets back fit. I always like Declan in the corner. We'd have full.
So who are you going to go with there, Jason or Declan?
Um, yeah, do you know what? I at the minute as it stands, even though I'm probably going against the grain there because I'm after saying two lads there after the match and at the weekend, but I'll start Jason Rabbit ahead of Declan because we haven't seen much of Declan in the last couple of weeks. For the first round of the championship.
Who are you going back out then at number 12? You obviously said John Fleming is
Um,
fit.
if John Fleming is fit, I'd start John Fleming in the wing. Other than that,
I don't know
I
if you
suppose
forgot
we've
about
seen
him now,
very.
but have you have left Gavin out?
Oh, Gavin Lee, jeez, I actually did leave Gavin Lee out. Do you know what? I'd actually put Gavin Lee straight into midfield. Sorry, and put Tom on wing forward.
Okay.
That's what I do if John Fleming wasn't. Gavin is nailed on midfield. Yeah, from what I've seen in it this year, I think Gavin has been solid midfield. Um, Not because my wife is related to him or anything like that, but yeah, no, yeah, no, I put Gavin midfield definitely. Yeah.
Um, Obviously, minor and twenties are going to start their campaigns in the coming weeks. The minors are obviously in around robin with the way Leinster works, and same with the twenties. The twenties actually start their championship on April 4th, down in Wexford. But before we do wrap up things, Craig, more Crow Cup heartbreak for Perzat and Roy. Um, Second final defeat in a row in the first half, played some exceptional hurling. Keane Hannon with an unbelievable goal, and they go in leading 1-9 to 1-8. And even it felt like when they were level, they were still in this contest at 115 apiece after 50 minutes. And then Kieran's like they've just been doing all year, finishing strongly. Um, put the game out of sight for Prezat and Roy, and the scoreline probably doesn't reflect the battle that it was.
Yeah, I suppose, look, Paul, the biggest, I suppose, standout element to me in that watching the game was the physical side of Kieran's for a finish. Do you know, Athenry, in all fairness, to them, they stayed with them and had their chances up until whatever 50 minutes. But just the last 10 or 12 minutes, Kieran's real big, strong men took control of the game. Like, and geez, they had some units, like, in all fairness. And like even Jake Mullen, like, he was out of the game. Adam McDonough did a great job on him for so long. And he just came into the game in the last 10 minutes. He won a few balls, laid them off lovely. And I just think that, look at, I suppose, like for Athenry, they probably had a few young guns, like obviously did what the two minors playing, 17 year
Yeah.
olds playing in a category, an age group that's 19 and a half. And like in all fairness to Aidan Ponyard, is it Aidan, yeah.
Anthony Ponyard.
Pony does. Anthony, sorry, Anthony, Aidan's father. Anthony, like he really stood up for a 17-year-old, like a county minor, like, and he really, I thought he put in a savage second half performance and
Some of
very
his
unlucky with a
points
few
were
wides, but
some of his points were exceptional, like from really tight angles. It was the same as well. I thought Ronan Callahan, half forward line, five from play as well was outstanding.
Brilliant, in all fairness, like, and the way they ran at the players, like, and do you know, like Ronan again is only 18 years of age. He's another year left again, and like, do you know, I suppose they probably physically just got it just ran out of steam. I think, and Kilkenny wore them down. Whereas like they were way more stylish and skillful hurlers in Athenry, like, and I think just the physical element just caught them for a finish. And I think where Kilkenny seemed to have a lot more manufactured hurlers. They were just physically very strong. Like, and I heard what you call the interview after the full back for Kilkenny, the
David
captain,
Barco,
Jared
yeah,
Barker, yeah, sorry. Like, you know, he's on account. Like, I know Kieran Lean's on the counter, but like, Barker, like, he's such a big, strong unit. Like, and he's, geez, he must be 6'4" or 6'5". But he was just saying that I think they have about 5 or 6 that are left on the panel for next year or something like that. Like, they were fairly at the age. Whereas at the Rye, I'd say have a lot more left, really. Like, and they had a big turnover from last year's team, really. Like, and I'd say last year's team were probably more physically ready for the battle. Like, but like, in all fairness, you have to give them credit. Like, they went the hard road again. That's right. Like, and just very, very unlucky. Like, and I suppose the Rayfields game, the kind of final. You know, there was very little in that, and I was at the Flannans game. Like, they did really well against Flannans, and yeah, it's just that kind of a hoodoo really that's over them at the minute. They just can't seem to get over the line, and you know, they've just some exceptional players. Like, and yeah, it's just a tough one for Mike and the lads to take now because I suppose they were going nicely into it, like, in all fairness, and you know, the Flannans game really, I suppose, would have given them a good kick, but anyway, not to be.
yeah, six final defeats now in the Crow Cup for Pres Athenry at the final stage. Um, in fairness, David Berko did a terrific man marking job on Kieran Lee. Kieran Lee's
Mm.
been so crucial scoring wise to Pres Athenry and getting them here. And in fairness, he man marked them well there at the weekend. Pres Athenry then were able to introduce Ronan Murphy, but he hasn't been fully fit this year. He struggled with injury. And Frank Burke played in last year's final as well. He wasn't able to play as well. So big losses there in fairness. But even chatting to Mike Finn after in Crow Park, I thought it was really interesting and something he said like that their aim is to just keep being competitive at this level. And I thought it was a terrific thing to say because they have had their heartbreak along the way too.
Yeah, and look, I suppose in all fairness to them, like, if you actually go down through the intercounty teams like that, they've brought a conveyor belt through of players like that are now the main players in intercounty minor and under 20 teams, and you'll see that going forward again in this year's 20 team, like the likes of Kieran and them lads, Kieran Lee and them lads, they'll be the main goals. Like, and I suppose it's now linking in really well with the county, the setup, I suppose, the schools hurling side of things, and like Rayfields in particular as well had a lot of players. I know they came up short in the quarter final, but um, it's almost like the school is like, because of the fact the 17s and 20 the ages have changed. It's a nice tournament for 19-year-olds to really showcase themselves, you know, and put themselves in the shop window, I suppose, for the inter-county management and at the start of the year. And it's probably getting even more important now, like, whereas back in the day, really, like under 21, when it was 21, probably wasn't really as relevant because we were leaving school a bit earlier, and then the under 21 was obviously a bigger age gap. Whereas now it is, like, since they moved it to under 20, because it's probably like a bit like Fitz with the intercounty senior scene now. Like, it's a shop window in the winter that you normally wouldn't have, and it's working for a lot of players in all fairness. And like, you know, there's probably a big bunch of those. I think Athenry players going to go on and represent their county in under 20 this year.
Club season not too far away.
Yeah, yeah. The league starts now in 2 weeks, Paul. I need to dust down the boots now. I won't lie, I haven't gone out yet, so I need to make shapes. Doesn't get easier every year, but yeah, I must make a start to it now this week and go back at it. But yeah, no, look, it's exciting to see a bit of sun outside, Paul, and that's for sure. I might
Yeah,
dry up the pitches a small bit because it's been an absolute disaster the last couple of weeks trying to organise games for different age groups and pitches being closed. So I think everybody's looking forward to it. I suppose the clocks going back now will make a big difference, and the evenings get a bit longer, and everyone will look forward to it. And the league is kind of a different format this year. There's seven, there's two groups of seven, I think it is, or two groups
yeah.
of eight. So you've 7 games in the league. So the league is actually running longer. I know I give out enough of times in this
Right.
podcast about the league, but I think actually the last league group game is the 24th of June or something like that. So the league finals actually aren't until July. which is brilliant because it's only whoever gets the league final. It's only 4 weeks to the first round of the championship, so it's a nice little run in. Like, and it's 2 weeks now from I think the weekend, the Easter bank holiday weekend. It's 2 weeks, every 2 weeks from there in. So yeah, it'll be everyone's looking forward to now. I suppose a lot of teams have done, I suppose, a lot of gym work, and I know a lot of clubs around us anyway in South Galway. They've a lot of gym done over the last 2 or 3 months. So everyone's just looking forward to getting out in the field and getting hurling again, I suppose. So
Yeah, there doesn't mean too much changes, I suppose, when it comes to club managers, but the one big appointment really is Brian Hanley going in as Sarsfield's manager.
yeah, sure. Brian lives in Sarsfields now. He's a long time over there. I've often met him at underage games with his young fella. So it makes sense there. But there's probably been a bit of movement anyway, Paul. Like, definitely around South Galway, there's been a bit of movement anyway. I know like the likes of Kinvara or Drahan, even ourselves, where I know the lads are back from last year, but we've introduced a lot of the older crew. Um, Off the top of my head, this Clarenbridge have had a bit of movement. Castlegar have moved. So there is a bit of movement going on around the place, all right. And I suppose look at it, it's hard. It's hard to get management at the minute, Paul. I know there's probably there's a circle of trainers going around the place there that are doing the rounds and stuff like that. But in particular, management within your own club is it's a hard thing got at the minute. Like, it's a big commitment, and like I'd even go as far as saying like managing your club now is probably a bigger commitment than actually being a player. You have to be there an hour or two before training. You're probably there an hour afterwards discussing it. You're probably meeting up. I know players meet up for gym, but you're meeting up day before matches or day before trainings or even in between trying to sort out stuff, and you're never off the phone, and it's a constant logistically it's probably very hard as well. So yeah, it's a big commitment, like, and I think it's getting harder and harder as the years go on, really, to get people within the club to do the job, and it's something that I see there now, in particular in the last couple of years, Paul. There seems to be an awful lot of fellas who are just finished up hurling that are going straight into it. Um, and maybe they might do a year or two, and then you won't see them again. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So it's a tough one, really. Like, and I suppose it burns you out for a year, 2 or 3 years. That whoever that does it, like, and if you're not successful, then I suppose it's even tougher. So yeah, look, we're very lucky in Gort this year that we've 6 or 7 lads, 8 lads from the club that are involved, and it's been absolutely brilliant so far. Even though I haven't been there, but even talking to the lads, it's a breath of fresh air to have so many lads involved. And yeah, we're really looking forward from a Gort point of view in it, hitting championship and hopefully not being in relegation this year, Paul.
Great stuff, Craig. Thanks for that.
Yeah. Cheers, Paul. All right.
This podcast is brought to you by Hoare Chartered Accountants. Hoare Chartered Accountants are based in Galway City and are a leading provider of audit, accountancy and taxation services. For more information, visit hoarecharteredaccountants.ie. In part 2 of the show, I'm delighted to be joined by Tom Clancy. Tom's name would pop up on various national media outlets throughout the National League and Championship season. First off, Tom, how are you? How are you keeping? How's life?
All good now, Paul. Busy time, as you know, for any GA reporter in any province, any code. But really enjoying it now, and plenty to get chatting about with you here this afternoon.
Mood good in Limerick so far?
On the hurling front, yeah. Just a brief tangent. The footballers have the potential of being relegated this weekend, which isn't good for those who follow the big ball in Limerick. But on the hurling front, which is obviously our main point of focus here in this chat, 4 wins in a row. On the cusp of a league final. A lot of good performances, good crowds going to games. A lot to be positive about, and anytime you're winning, I think and John Kiley touched on this last day, the mood is bound to be good, and I think that's the same in general with regards to the senior hurlers at the moment on Shannon's side.
Obviously, when it comes to Galway Limerick, you probably have good memories of these games in the past.
Yeah, I think that's an understatement. A lot of people will look at 2018 as a really, really important moment in Limerick's, I suppose, current run and current, I suppose, iteration as a hurling county. That's All Ireland final victory by just a point. I don't think Limerick cared how they won it. I was actually on the hill that day myself. I wasn't really in the space for covering inter-county games at the time, but huge memories for myself, huge memories for anyone associated with Limerick on that day. And even if we're looking at league action now, we go back to earlier that spring, players, management, supporters, everyone would associate that victory in Salthill over Galway as a real turning point in Limerick's fortunes and Limerick's season. They were a long time trying to get out of the second tier, which was 1B at the time, and had to come from behind to get the better of Galway that day, and kind of didn't really look back from there. Okay, they didn't go on to win the league or anything like that, but it really gave them belief, I think, going into the championship, because they hadn't won a championship game the year before, and ultimately ended in that victory in 2018. And I don't think Micheál O'Donoghu's got the better of Limerick since 2017 in the two league games that they played. And then you fast forward to more good memories for Limerick, where they win against Henry Shefflin's Galway, as you recall, Paul, in there was the 2020 semi-final no one was at, and then there was a couple more semi-finals that Limerick, were slow out of the traps, but eventually got the better of Galway. So it's a fixture Limerick supporters don't fear at the moment. I think that's fair to say, but it's one that Limerick would respect Galway as well, with regards to historically there's been very little between these counties down the years.
Yeah, probably Shane O'Neill had the last man as Galway manager to get a victory over Limerick. I think that was obviously in Pearse Stadium, the National League. So
2020 or 2021 was it?
Yeah, so it's obviously been quite a while. Have you been frustrated with the last 2 years, or how do you view it? Because obviously last year looked really good in the Munster round robin, and obviously bit of a shock being defeated to Cork in the semi-final the year before that. How do you think Limerick supporters view the last 2 years, considering obviously it was 4 in a row before that?
Yeah, I think there's frustration with some things, but I think there is a air of respect from supporters towards what has gone on, that you can't win forever, and that the team had done so much. I mean, six Munsters in a row during a time when I think every pundit, every analyst, everyone that looking on said that Munster is so competitive, yet year in, year out, Limerick got into that top two, got to the final and won it. And even in the years when it was straight knockout, Limerick did the business. 5 knockout wins in a row in the province, in 2020 and 2021. I suppose the last couple of seasons, frustrating in regards that there's not been that consistency to Limerick's performances. Last year in particular, we'll highlight that 4 victories in the whole year, 2 in the league, 2 in the championship. Okay, they drew a championship game with Tipperary, who ultimately won the whole thing, and they drew a league game with Cork as well. But very stop-start last year with regards to performances and results, and ultimately then the wheels came off after the Cork Munster final last. The Munster final performance was quite creditable. I think you were there alongside me, Paul. We, as observers, we would have said Limerick were unlucky to be beaten in that final. But I think you were alongside me again in Croke Park when Dublin got the better of Limerick, and that really frustrated Limerick supporters, because I think everyone wanted another crack at the likes of Tipperary and Cork, given their previous meetings in last year's championship. Just frustration, and I think maybe it boils down to something that is probably being ironed out as we speak. It's just there's been a lack of freshness in the team, in the starting team in the championship. A lot of the same players had been called upon for the last little while, and I think we've already seen this spring that John Coddy is refreshing things. And just to go back to your original question, that's another reason why people are optimistic and people are positive, because there's fresh blood and there's a fresh impetus in the team, and it looks that little bit different, while not moving away from all the things that made Limerick successful in the last nearly decade, really, at this stage.
It's funny in one sense. Obviously, for people who aren't aware, I did work for over a year and a half down to Limerick leader, but looking at the team, and people maybe talk about Aidan O'Connor and Shane O'Brien and Colin Coughlin, people are nearly referring to them as new players, but to be obviously there for quite a while. So it's not like it's been a complete reshuffle. Like most of the players who have featured have been thereabouts for the last few years with this Limerick squad.
Yeah, and that's the point I've been making to people as well, that again, the lazy analysis, or maybe not the lazy, but people who are not looking at Limerick maybe as closely as I would quickly say, oh yeah, there's a lot of the new faces. I think Colin Coughlin and Colin O'Neill have been on the panel since 2021, so maybe rolling into 22. I could be mixing my years up, but basically coming out of COVID, these guys were on the panel, slow to really get a start in championship. the likes of Shane O'Brien, Adam English, and Aidan O'Connor have been there a while. But John Kiley would always have referenced, and you'd have heard him in post-match interviews referencing younger players, and it does take a while to get up to speed. It does take them time to really get that consistency in their game and consistency in everything on and off the field. And those 5 or 6 players we mentioned there, they are the new, I suppose, energy that Limerick have. Yes, they're not new to the panel. I'd agree with you on that. And what it has done then, it is kind of, I think it's piling pressure on the more experienced and more I suppose tried and trusted cohort to I suppose potentially up their game. What I've noticed very much in the league so far, Paul, and I don't have the exact number on it, Limerick have used quite a number of players less than maybe the last few seasons. It's kind of, I'd imagine, around 23, 24 mark that have taken to the field. Okay, there's been a couple of players that played a few minutes here and there, but I mean, John Kiley seems to be rotating the same 23 or 4 players in and out. And he is rotating them, but they are getting the bulk of the minutes. There's some players, as I said, getting a minute here and a minute there, or a few minutes here and a few minutes there. But generally, we've seen Aidan O'Connor play in every game. We've seen Shane O'Brien, I think, played in every game as well. And then there's certain guys rotating, like Tom Marcy and Grode Hegarty. I don't think they've been on the field together yet. They've been coming on and off for each other since round 1, basically. So, that's a new dynamic in Limerick, and I suppose you have to have that competition, because you can't keep playing the same team in any sport year in, year out. You have to evolve, and I think Limerick are slowly doing that, albeit the league is always the league. We always have to say that, because the championship is very much a different beast. But you'd be very, very happy with the likes of Aidan O'Connor. I think a goal and 50 in the league, as you know, top scorer.
Do you expect them to stay on the freeze?
I do, because we've gone so far down the track, 5 games in a row, and no sign of Aaron Gillan taking him. I thought potentially Aidan would be rested in the Offaly game, and then maybe Aaron would assume them from there, but it doesn't look like it. And just listening to John Kiley after games, he's been asked about it numerous times, and he says, well, Aidan's not missing. He's missed the odd one here or there from distance, but he's out taking the 65s, which had been flirted between Aaron Gillan and Diarmuid Burns for the last years, and not impeccable between either. But Aidan has, he's hitting everything. He took the penalty the last day. That's a sure sign that there's real trust and real belief in everything he's doing. And I think he's the type of player now that, because he's playing so much hurling, he's just loving every minute of it. I mean, he played basically from the Munster final onwards last year. He's basically been picked in every game, club and county, and with UL, more or less the odd game maybe missed here or there, but like effectively he's just been first name in the team sheet for all those managements, top scorer in the senior hurling championship. And I think people are starting to take notice of something that people in Limerick knew for a while about Aidan, and it's good. And then further in the field, then you've Shane O'Brien, who's a real threat. He got a goal the last day against Cork that everyone saw. Maybe a question mark over the number of steps, but that's what he's about: direct play, direct ball, and turns his man and buries it. And I think it's no surprise, Paul, again, you would have seen a lot of the senior hurling championship locally here in Limerick last season, and Adam English, probably not his greatest season, but still to the fore for his club. Aidan O'Connor to the fore for his club. Shane O'Brien to the fore for his club. And if you were to pick a team at the championship, you'd probably have all 3 of those straight onto your team sheet, given what they did at club level, and they've just carried that role on into the colleges campaigns with UL and Mary I, and now into the Green Limerick.
Is it fair to say Matthew Fitzgerald is the only new player?
He seems to be the only new player that is getting considerable minutes. Hugh Flanagan, I suppose, has come on the last day, got a point, and came on, I think, against Waterford in round 1, or well, what was round 2, Limerick's opening game. Bit part minutes for the likes of Oisin O'Farrell and a couple of others, but Matthew Fitzgerald is the only kind of real player that has upset the 20 or 21 names that I'm kind of referencing there. He's the only one who's really, given John Kiley a problem, or not a problem, a kind of solution to a few positions. He's played it, I think, on both cornerback positions. He's played on the wing in a game, and has started, is it 3 or 4 of the games now, and it's given Limerick a real option back in that defensive unit, because I suppose that was the thing thrown at Limerick, that they hadn't really developed. They developed so many good forwards in the last few years, but hadn't really developed a new defensive option. I mean, I always will reference when the 5-in-a-row dream came crashing down. Limerick conceded, was it 130 or sorry 230 against Cork, and they didn't replace any of their six backs. All six that started finished, and Limerick were, it was the biggest. I think it's the biggest total they shipped in defeat under John Kiley, and nothing changed. So they're trying to develop obviously a couple of new options, and Monlean's young Matthew Fitzgerald is certainly putting his hand up in that regard.
It's fair to say, even like we're only talking about Matthew Fitzgerald being a new player, but you look at the full back line and the competition that's building there. I think everyone in the country's intrigued. Obviously, you've had Sean Finn, Mike Casey, and Barry Nash there. Dan Morrissey's obviously came back in the last few weeks. You look at the half back line with Jeremy Burns, Kyle Hayes, William O'Donoghue, and even Colin Coughlin coming there. Obviously, in midfield, you've had Cian Lynch and Adam English. Darragh O'Donovan's been there. And as you mentioned, Tom Morrissey and Gareth Hegarty haven't played there. So picking the starting 15 is obviously going to be hard for John Kiley, and there's going to be some big calls to make come championship time.
Yeah, there is. And I think Limerick, or people have always cited Limerick's, I suppose, depth, that they have multiple options in every position. I think we're getting a clearer picture without knowing fully, where it's headed. There's, as you touched on there, there's very few other new faces that are putting their hands up. It's kind of those names you'd rattle off, the Morrisseys, Gillans, the Lynches that have won, started nearly every All-Ireland final Limerick have been in. It's kind of those guys, plus now the Gen Zs or whatever they want to be called, the guys born in like 2002, 3 and 4, Shane O'Brien, Cathal O'Neill, Adam English, Aidan O'Connor, etc. So it's just, where can they fit all of that in? Will they persist with Cian Lynch at midfield, or will he revert to centre forward come championship, or will it depend on who they're playing? Because we saw what Tipperary did last year with a sweeper. Will that be a case of put Aidan O'Connor in at centre forward and let him hoover up loose ball, or will it be a case of put Cian Lynch in there and let him kind of create so much in behind? So they're the things that John Kiley needs to ponder. But I think we're very clear to knowing the 21 or 22 that will play, barring injuries. And I think you went through names there. The most interesting line of all, actually, for me, is the full back line, because you have, I suppose, serial All-Ireland winners there in the form of, and All-Star winners in all four, in the case of Sean Finn, Dan Morrissey, Mike Casey, and Barry Nash. And for the first time in a while, it isn't certain which three you'd pick and which three John Kiley is going to pick. Everyone would have their thoughts. Some people would say Dan Morrissey, but he hasn't played an awful lot of minutes so far. So it looks like Mike Casey is leading that charge at the moment. He's playing exceptionally well. He's leading from the front, and Limerick's defence has been quite strong so far. I think it's only the 3 goals conceded in 5 games, and that's a testament to the guy, to those guys, plus Matthew Fitzgerald, who's been in that defensive line for some of those games as well. So yeah, plenty still to ponder. There's great rotation in that Limerick team. You could see William O'Donoghue playing midfield sometimes during the year. We could certainly see Cian Lynch at midfield or centre forward. We could see Aidan O'Connor at centre forward, half forward, or corner forward. So while they have used a very narrow band of players, they've really rotated the positional sense day in, day out. So the jury's still out on what the 15 will look like when they head to Páirc Uí Chaoimh in their Munster Championship opener next month.
People probably nearly read too much in when you lost to Waterford, but obviously since losing that game to Waterford, it's been a fairly impressive response.
It has, yeah. Look, and Waterford were very strong on the day. Limerick didn't put their best foot forward. The efficiency was something that John Kiley would have cited afterwards. Some wasted opportunities. I thought the penalty that kind of swung the game was certainly questionable with regards to the black card. And during that period, Limerick I suppose conceded the goal from the penalty, and I think lost another point. So a big swing there, but. Yeah, that certainly was their poorest performance of the year so far, even including the couple of games in the Munster Hurling League as well before that. But since then, wins over Kilkenny the next day out, very good win away to Tipperary, putting up a huge total, and then it was 35 points, and then facile enough victories against Offaly. Sorry, not facile against Cork, but pulling away from Cork in the final quarter last year, and I think that's or last time out, I should say. But that's been a good sign for Limerick so far. They've finished games strongly. The game against Kilkenny, and the game against Cork in particular. The games were tight enough, maybe with 15 or 20 minutes to go, and Limerick managed to just find an extra gear or two, pull away and take the points. So 4 wins from 4. It's not something Limerick did last year. They didn't even come close to that. So you'd have to be very positive about how things have progressed, and it leads nicely into Saturday's game with Galway, and hopefully a bumper crowd at the Gaelic grounds.
Just before we get in and look at Saturday a bit, obviously John Kiley was handed a 2-year extension at the start of last year, so maybe he does renew it again after this year as Limerick senior hurling manager. But do you see, when you see Kiley and Cadark, and I suppose you see those 21, 22 players that are going to be used, you think at the minute, do you sort of see this as a last dance for this Limerick team, or how do you see it?
No, I think that's a bit premature in some regard. There's a possibility that Limerick may never win anything again with this group, but I don't think that their focus is on putting everything into this year and all walking away or anything like that. I think they're putting everything into this year because this is the most immediate thing in front of them. I had a look at the panel that was named at the start of the year. I think it was huge by the clubs. Was it 20, maybe 20 clubs for across the 36 names, 21 maybe. And I kind of split it into guys who have played a lot of championship and guys who haven't, and it was more or less 50-50. You were at maybe nearly 10 players who hadn't played any championship hurling. You were maybe at 5 or 6 that hadn't started more than maybe a game or two, and then you were at the other half of the panel, then the other 18 or 19 that had been there and done it. So it's a panel that's in transition. I don't think John Kiley would have brought in so many young faces if he wasn't thinking ahead to the future. Yes, they haven't really seen much game time, but he's trying to bring those up to speed. There's a lot of handful of 20s involved there, Hugh Flanagan being the most notable one at the minute. And I wouldn't say it's a last dance vibe. There's that's been said about Limerick, that's been said about Clare. I think Limerick's aim this year is to just win as many matches as they can. I think their approach to the league has been very, very different, probably based on a few factors, mainly the calendar with regards to not playing in round 1 in Munster, but also the fact that they just couldn't get that winning momentum last year. Going to see can they get that going. And they've won 3 leagues under John Kiley. They haven't ignored the league every year, but other years they've kind of left it take its own course. But this year they look determined to me to get on the front foot, get some wins under the belt, and have that momentum coming into the championship, because they will need it heading down to Páirc Uí Chaoimh. It's no doubt in round 1. So last dance, not for me. I could certainly see John Kiley staying beyond 2026, but at the same time, I would say I wouldn't be surprised if there is a change, because it is all consuming. It is very tough 6 or 7 or maybe even 8 months, plus everything else that goes on in the off season. But it's a big block of work from John, from Paul, from everyone involved, and you could see how someone would be mentally drained from intercounty management. We didn't see much change in the hurling landscape in regards to managers, in the off season just gone, but the previous one there wasn't there 6 or 7 rotations, and the same in the football. There's guys coming in for only a year or two, so and they're moving on, and they're getting burnt out from it really. But credit to John and Paul and a lot of the other backroom team that have been there for so long. They've been there since 2017, and it's a real old slog, but I'm sure they want to put more silverware on the table, and that then may dictate the next move into 2027.
It was interesting to hear John talk about Galway's form and the performances throughout the league so far. I'd say Limerick are obviously probably aware as players and even supporters too that it's a different Galway team coming. It's a Galway team coming to the Gaelic grounds in better form this year than they were last year, and I think given what happened last year with that game getting away from Galway so early into Gaelic grounds last year, there'd be a real focus for Galway too to be competitive in this one.
Yeah, there will. And look, these I suppose the previous meeting before that between these two counties was a drawn game in Salthill, albeit Limerick I think played a lot of that game without Shane O'Brien, who was sent off early on. But yeah, there's definitely a new vibe to Galway. As you know, I would have been at a lot of Fitzgibbon games, and I'm mixing up my third level now. I think it was ATU Galway. Would have seen
I was there.
a lot of the Galway kind of fresh names like Joshua O'Ryan. I think he played full back the last day. We've seen Aaron Nyland. He's someone who's been well flagged since his minor days, and even Tom Monaghan. We saw Tiernan Killeen in the club championships. Darren Eary has stuck out, but then you have the familiar names of Cathal Mannion, Boric Mannion, Conor Whelan, as we see, is back in the last little while, and Conor Cooney is thereabouts. But I think Galway in some regards would be similar to Limerick. They have guys that are like 23, 24 years of age that, had good underage careers, and they probably want to start seeing them now being the leading lights, They can't keep going back to the Manions of this world to carry them over the line. And I think that's what we've seen so far from Galway. They've tried to unearth a few. I suppose the trouble you'd see for a county like Galway, because you have so many talented hurlers year in, year out, is sometimes you can have too many options, and it can really, it can blur the lines between who's in and who's out, and you can be trying too many guys. But I think Micheál O'Donoghue, I'm always calling him O'Donoghue. Sorry, Micheál Donoghue. I think he's probably tried to narrow it down. You'd know better now, but he's probably trying to, develop guys, of course, but not be looking at 40 or 50 guys. Be looking at low 30s and even fewer than that, and really narrow it down as time goes on, and try and get close to a settled team. The benefit of Galway, I suppose, being in Leinster, is that they probably have a couple of games there where there can be a bit of rotation, a bit of experimentation, and that can bring guys along. But I think these two sides will be well matched on Saturday evening. Limerick will definitely be favourites. There'll be an expectation that Limerick will win, but I think Galway, slow start with regards to results, but the performances weren't too bad, and it's 3 wins in a row now. So, their confidence should be good coming down to Limerick this Saturday.
Yeah, I think as well, probably John Fleming and Dáithí Becker are obviously not fully back yet, but I think there could be a couple of more players that maybe we haven't seen that could see game time this weekend, because Galway obviously don't start Leinster till the 19th of April against Kilkenny at home. So any player that's close to coming back, you probably expect them to get a bit of game time into them this weekend. Just obviously in terms of this weekend, it's going to be really interesting. Obviously, you're talking there about the newer Galway players coming through, but I think it's the perfect test now for, I suppose, these young fellas to see how they cope with Limerick's physicality in particular.
Yeah, that's it. You think of that half-back wall that Limerick had the last day against Cork, namely Diarmaid Burns, William O'Donoghue and Kyle Hayes. And, I think if you're kind of a rookie, shall we say, in the Galway ranks, and you're playing in the half-forward line, or maybe even in the full forward line.
Yeah, like Darren Eary could match up with someone like Kyle Hayes this weekend.
Yeah, there's only so many training sessions you can have that you learn. But if you have to face up against Kyle Hayes, William O'Donoghue, Diarmaid Burns, these colossal men, these very experienced hurlers, you'll learn an awful lot. And I'm sure that's what Micheál will be looking to take out of Saturday. Obviously, they'll want to win, but I'm sure he'll learn so much about the likes of Neary. Even Jason Rabbit is still a very young player. Aaron Nyland, see how they match up. If Aaron Nyland is playing inside on maybe a Sean Finn or a Mike Casey, how will he get on? Because they're very physical players. They're not the tallest 2 men in the world, but they're extremely strong. They're extremely well experienced in a full back line at intercounty level. So, that it'll start to tell the tale. And yes, they got the better Kilkenny last day, but I think Kilkenny just let them do what they want, really. It was a lot of non-contact stuff. I couldn't believe what I was watching when I was watching it. It wouldn't even struck you as being like a challenge match. It was even a step below that, if there is such a thing. But I think Galway will be in for a bit of an awakening with regards to that. This will be a big step up from what Kilkenny put out against them, and it should prime them for the Leinster Championship. There will be an expectation in Galway that they'll be to make a Leinster final this year, and and there'll probably be a hope now that given Kilkenny's, I suppose, sluggish enough start to the year, that silverware is within their grasp. So very interesting time ahead for Galway, and I think Saturday night will tell an awful lot more about some of these younger guys where they're at. Even Derek Fahey, the goalkeeper, what can he do in the puck up? Because Limerick often make it so hard for an opposition goalkeeper to go along on puck outs, and even once to the middle, they swallow it up, and I think
particularly with the way Galway are playing too. I suppose a more so short game than previous years. They're working it out. They're working it through the line. So it'll be interesting to see do Limerick go with a full court press there, or will they drop off and I suppose try and make Galway work it into channels where it's uncomfortable for them.
Yeah, that's it. And I recall down the years Limerick letting Cork do that in league games and letting Cork have a nice handy puck out, and then suddenly they cross maybe the 45 or the 65, and there's just green jerseys everywhere. So, let's see how far developed that Galway game plan is, that Galway stick work, how in tune it is,
It's interesting. We obviously haven't talked about yet. Obviously, it's nearly like a league semi-final for both of these teams this weekend. Obviously, you expect Cork to beat Offaly. That puts Cork straight into the league final. Tipperary are obviously back in contention for a league final now as well, but scoring difference is probably just not going to stand in their favour. So in one sense, it's nearly a straight shootout between Galway and Limerick. Now, if Tipperary win, it'll probably come against Galway, because I think they have to win by something like 10 points. Against,
I actually think, Paul, I know we were trying to figure it out ourselves. I suppose for listeners there, the obvious one for just to take care of it is if Cork at home to Offaly, pick up a point or better, which they'll invariably do. They'll be in the league final. That'll take care of one spot. Limerick just need a draw to get to the league final, and then obviously Galway will need the victory. And if Galway get a victory and it is a narrow one, they won't make the league final if Tipperary win, if people are following. But basically Galway will need to win anyway, and they probably need Kilkenny to get something against Tipperary. That's the most likely way for Galway.
Or unless Kilkenny win, it's a straight shootout really between the two.
Exactly. Yeah, Kilkenny win or draw with Tipperary. That'll make this straight knockout game effectively. Winner will be in the league final. If Tipperary are to beat Kilkenny, which some people would say is fairly likely, we'll be down to a mini table between Limerick, Kilkenny, and Galway, and Limerick currently in the driving seat in that plus 15, with the other two counties on minus 10 in the case of Tipperary and minus 5 in the case of Galway. So Galway would need to win by my calculations 10 points to swing that around. It's not the overall scoring differences would have been, going back a number of years, but it's kind of just a mini table. So look, Galway, I'm sure they'll just come down, see can they win the game, and worry about what's gone on in Thurles, I believe, is where that other clash is on. So they'll worry about that later. But Limerick very likely to make a league final in some of those scenarios. But I'm sure Galway will have a thing or two to say about that on the Ennis Road on Saturday. Sorry.
Yeah, Galway will obviously be coming down looking to get the win, turn over Limerick, and I suppose continue this real progress. But even chatting to different supporters this week, I think what we've seen in the last 3 games, there's obviously a lot of positives there, but I don't think Galway supporters will be overly fussed. I think it's really just about being competitive. But then if you look from a Limerick point of view this weekend, they obviously want a league final, particularly with that bye in Munster in the first round.
Yeah, I think they will. Just looking at Galway, I suppose the concern for Galway is if they are beaten, is that maybe they'll have been beaten by 3 of the stronger counties. Haven't got to that level yet. They have been beaten by Cork and Tipperary, and in the scenario where Limerick win, that's kind of the 3 best teams in the country for people, in a lot of people's eyes, would have beaten them. And then the victories Galway picked up were against the 2 relegated sides, Waterford and Offaly, and then against Kilkenny, who are having their own troubles at the moment. So maybe that's the worry for Galway. Is it really, where are they still in the middle of the pack, or are they starting to emerge as one of the big hitters again? That's maybe the concern. And look, one result won't dictate that, but it'll be I suppose a yardstick for what's to come. I think Limerick having that that gap is it's nice, I suppose, with regards to they'll probably play Cork in a league final if they get there, and then they'll have time to reassess and get ready for Cork again, which would be Limerick's opener, but Cork will have already played their opening Munster Championship game. So there's a buffer there. I do always laugh at this though, that a couple of weeks break seems to make the world of difference. I haven't done the analysis on it myself. I don't know, does it actually dictate results, but there's a perception out there that having these gaps, it's the same in the football, having a couple of weeks of a gap seems to transforms teams' fortunes. It does, I'm sure it does help with regards to the conditioning of players and all that, but at the end of the day, it's not going to determine. It's not going to guarantee Limerick a win in Páirc Uí Chaoimh in their Munster Championship opener. So I think Limerick will just want to win for the sake of winning, get to a league final, and have another big day out, or relatively big day out, and get that winning mood in the camp. It would be a great sign of Limerick to be bouncing into the championship with they've won 4 in a row. Can they win? Beat Galway to make it 5, and then win a league final to make it 6. 6 wins in a row would really embolden the work that has gone on during the winter. Because this time last year it was so stop-start for Limerick, just couldn't get any momentum, and then that was borne out then in the Munster Championship, and beyond, because they just again couldn't string a run of results together that we're talking about.
Yeah, obviously, I think a fair Galway crowd will travel to the Gaelic grounds on Saturday evening. Obviously, that's handy too for Galway sport to get to.
It's one of the easier ones to get to for Galway people, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of people there in a couple of the hurling circles closer to Ennis where they might find it easier to go there. But you would expect a decent crowd Saturday night.
You would, yeah. There was near 18,000, I think, at Limerick and Cork. Obviously, Cork supporters are travelling in huge numbers at the minute, but I think Limerick supporters came out. There seems to be an appetite for these Saturday night games in Limerick. It's kind of in its own right. It's its only show in town, whereas when you roll on to Sunday, then there's often on Sundays, obviously, other sports and other commitments that people have. So Sunday games can be a bit hit and miss, but the Saturday games down the years have done quite well. I think as we've kind of said, it's kind of a knockout game, so people should be expecting a quality game between these two counties. And given Limerick have won 4 games in a row, Galway have won 3 games in a row, there's no reason why supporters wouldn't be, I suppose, enthused to get out and have a look at this one. And the Gaelic grounds has been underused in the last few years in a lot of quarters, but certainly the senior hurlers, when they have gone there, the numbers have come out to support them and watch the games, because they are obviously the number one show in this county in any code or any sport really at the moment.
Great stuff, Tom. Thanks a million for your time.
No problem, Paul. We'll chat to you again soon.